All right, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Engineering Major, Philosophy Minor. As you guys know, if you've watched any of the other videos, EMPM is the spot where you can get a working aerospace engineer's opinions on topics pertaining to engineering, philosophy, politics, and various other social issues. Thank you guys for joining me this Thursday evening. And in this video, we are actually going to talk about what has become quite a big political issue, but really is an important engineering topic, and that is energy production. Specifically, we're going to look at solar energy production versus nuclear and versus natural gas energy production in terms of space requirements needed. Now, if you, just to jump right into it, if you guys look on my screen right here, I do have PragerU's YouTube channel pulled up, and that is because there are two videos that PragerU put out recently that I thought were really well done and did a really interesting kind of not only a scientific but kind of merging it with social policy or public policy videos pertaining to environmental policy and green technology and quote-unquote renewable energy. One of those videos is called What's Wrong with Wind and Solar, right here. And then the other video is Environmental Regulations Are Causing Wildfires in California. And a similar video was actually put out, Is California Going Up in Flames? Basically, these are two of the similar videos, except there's a little bit more footage of the fires in this environmental regulation one. Now, in this video, first off, I just want to comment really fast on the title of this video, What's Wrong with Wind and Solar? Obviously, PragerU is trying to make quick, simple videos that have relatively simple titles. I don't necessarily believe, before you guys jump at me and say that I'm a science denier and a climate denier and stuff like that, that's not the case. And I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with wind and solar per se. Obviously, if somebody wants to build a windmill or somebody wants to use solar energy to power their home, I think that that's great. I think that really the title of this video should be called What's Wrong with Using the Government to Force People or Force Industries or Force Companies or force public utilities to use a specific form of energy that is just generally not as efficient as other forms of energy such as nuclear and natural gas. And so in this video, what I want to show you guys is a little bit of analysis that I have done, and this is very rudimentary stuff. This is stuff that you can do for yourself at home. If you don't believe me and you want to investigate it yourself, it's very straightforward. So that said, the purpose of this video is not to just pile on another reason why wind and solar are bad. It's simply to just give you guys some more food for thought when you are deciding for yourself what kind of energy policy you subscribe to. This is just another tool, or not even so much tool, but just another thought to keep in the back of your mind when you might be considering what the best type of energy is for a developed nation like the US to use. And in fact, that extends to the whole globe, because when we talk about some other countries which are actually very high polluters at the moment, you might want to think about what this particular study that I'm about to show you means relative to how those countries might produce their energy. So anyway, let's just jump right into it. So I put together this little PowerPoint presentation. I actually put this together, how long ago was this? Maybe about 6 months ago, because I was just curious. I was looking around Google Maps and I realized that I could do a couple simple calculations. So all this data is directly from Google Maps. So in this presentation, on the left-hand side, you're looking at the Ivanpah Solar Electric Generating System. This is the Concentrated Solar Power Array, also known as CSP. In between, it's in Nevada. It's in between basically Riverside in California and Las Vegas. If you're flying on a plane and you happen to fly by Las Vegas, you can always spot this Ivanpah Solar Array because It's actually a really cool system. It's got basically this giant reflecting ball that sits on the top of this like spire, like this huge tower. And these mirrors are super, super reflective, and they reflect all the sunlight to a bunch of solar arrays that are arranged kind of around this giant tower. And it's actually quite a cool piece of technology. But just as an example, you can quickly go over to, maps.google.com, of course, search for the how do you spell it? Here we go, Ivanpah solar. Oh, and this actually is in California. It's not in Nevada. And switch this to the satellite view, and look at that, pretty cool. Actually, see this bright spot right here? That's actually the top of the tower, and then these rings are all solar panels. Okay, and as you can see, this is massive. Here's the freeway right here. Here's a golf course right here, believe it or not. And then actually there are a number of other solar panels here. Anyway. So what I did was I took pictures of this, and then here in the lower right-hand corner, you can see that there is a scale here. This is 2,000 feet, but if we look in my image right here, it looks like I zoomed it so that it's a scale of 1 mile. Put a little rectangle here, and I basically started making these rectangles around here so that I could get an idea of land usage. If you account for the total land area of the Ivanpah solar electric grid system, you can see I've calculated a scale here, which is 0.99 miles per inch. Therefore, the area in the PowerPoint is this sum of all these numbers. You guys can go ahead and you can try and calculate this yourself if you want to. Hopefully we'll get the same answer. If you get a different answer, let me know in the comments. I'll fix it. Basically, in the PowerPoint area, we have a total area of 5.54 inches squared. We take this 5.54, and sorry that it's buried under this image right here, but you just have to deal with it. So take this 5.54 and then multiply that by the correct scale factor, miles per inches. And what you end up is 5.43 miles squared. So that's how much area approximately is taken up by the Ivanpah solar electric generating system. Now, how much power does the solar electric generating system produce? It produces 392 megawatts. Okay? So in an area of 5.43 square miles, you're producing 392 megawatts. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the maximum power output. So this doesn't account for the fact if there's clouds or, if some of the solar panels get damaged or there's dust on the solar panels or, any of the other inefficiencies or losses that you might encounter in a system like this. Now, let's take a look at the San Onofre nuclear power plant. This is a nuclear power plant that is north of Oceanside, California, and this is very close to San Diego. It's about 40 minutes to an hour north of where I live. This nuclear power plant was decommissioned. It was not decommissioned because of environmental policy, actually. It was decommissioned because there was an issue with saltwater corrosion in the cooling tubes to the reactor, and they kept having to replace these cooling tubes, and there was not a good solution to avoid this corrosion. We're talking about space usage, so what I did was I drew another rectangle around here. I went on Google Maps, got my scale at 500 feet, which is the size of this little blue rectangle right here. And I actually, so these two circles right here, I know it's hard to see on my screen, maybe I can zoom in a little bit. So this is a dual reactor nuclear power plant. This is one reactor right here, and this is the other reactor right here underneath the font right here. Maximum power output for the nuclear power plant, and keep in mind, these are just the two reactors right here, and then all this other stuff is like storage space and area and power things. So technically I'm over counting the area. Oh, I've got some water in here too. So technically I'm over counting the area for this. Again, remember, we're talking about land usage here. There are two 1,100 megawatt reactors, so that's two 1.1 gigawatt reactors. Multiply that out, you get 2.26 gigawatts. Or if you wanted to compare that directly to megawatts, you just move the decimal over 3 places, and you get 2,260 megawatts to the 392 megawatts of the Ivanpah solar electric generating system. Now we do a similar process. We calculate the area in the PowerPoint, 7.22 inches squared. We multiply that by our scale factor of 735 feet per inch. We get this number right here, and then we convert that to miles, and we get 0.0019 miles squared. So what does that tell you? The San Onofre nuclear power plant, which, by the way, is subject to much less losses than the Ivanpah solar electric generating system because it can always be on. Clouds don't affect it. It's not intermittent, very, very reliable, and obviously much less area to maintenance. Let's just go ahead and divide out the numbers really fast. So 2260 megawatts divided by 392 megawatts. So the nuclear power plant produces 6 times the amount of power maximum as the maximum possible output from the Ivanpah, but it uses 0.00019 divided by 5.43. It uses not even a single percent, basically. I mean, this is times 10 to the minus 5. It uses not even a single percent of the area of the Ivanpah solar electric generating system. When you're thinking about if you want to generate this much electricity with solar, you basically need to put solar panels outside of this rectangle everywhere. And in a second, I'll show you how much of the area of San Diego County you'd have to cover with solar panels to meet San Diego's energy demands on average, not on peak. Let's look at another power plant. This is a natural gas power plant in Japan. I picked this one because it was just easy to draw a rectangle around there. This is the Anagasaki power station. This is a series of gas turbines, and actually, if you look here, the actual gas turbines are, if I'm not mistaken, they're these towers right here that are kind of underneath the little bullet right here. So this power station can produce 3.6 gigawatts of power. So actually, a little bit more than the nuclear power plant. But let's look at the space. If we do a very similar conversion as we did before, this is 2.27 miles squared. So, bust out the calculator again really fast. 2.27 divided by 5.43. So in about 42% of the space taken up by the Ivanpah solar electric system, you can make a natural gas power plant that produces, let's see, 3,600 divided by, we had 360, I don't know, it was 360 megawatts or something. About 10 times the power in 42% of the space. Okay? So, and wind is even, I think wind is potentially even worse than solar in terms of space. There was this article that came out that I read that was suggesting that China was going to build like a 3 gigawatt wind farm, and I was like, man, that's probably going to take up I can't even imagine. It would be absolutely insanely huge. Obviously, on an island like Japan, for example, there's no possible way that you can do that, Then that is exactly why Japan is powered by natural gas and powered by nuclear. Okay, so the video is getting kind of long, but I did mention earlier that I was going to show you how much of San Diego you'd have to cover with solar panels, basically. The San Diego County energy usage is about 19.9 gigawatts. If it takes 5.43 miles squared to produce 392 megawatts, so this 392 number came from here, and the 5.43 miles squared came from that previous slide, this gives 13.8 miles squared per gigawatt needed. So if you want to use solar, you have to basically cover an area of 13.8 square miles for every gigawatt that you need. So to power San Diego with solar, you would need 13.8 times 19.9 gigawatts equals 274.62 square miles to power all of San Diego County with the best solar technology ever invented. Concentrated solar power is currently the, absolute benchmark, cream of the crop solar energy. The scale on the map is 6.09 miles per inch. And you can see this red line around here is all of San Diego County. But I'm just going to look at this area right here. The 2 rectangular area is 422 miles squared. So if I take this 274 miles squared to power all of San Diego, and I divide it by the total area represented by these 2 blue rectangles, I get 0.65. You would have to cover 65% of this entire area with solar panels so that you could power San Diego 100% on solar. Now, obviously, you can see that that is not very feasible unless you put somehow concentrated solar power arrays on every single building in San Diego, essentially, period. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, why not? Why don't we just cover every building with solar panels? And admittedly, if you had talked to me maybe 8 years ago, that is what I was really interested in. I was like, why don't we just put solar panels literally on everything? Well, the reason why not is because solar panels cost money. And if you've been to San Diego, we have plenty of infrastructural issues that demand change, road maintenance, bridge maintenance, just general sidewalk maintenance, power grid maintenance, et cetera, and we spend a lot of taxes in California to basically have almost none of that get taken care of efficiently or effectively. So let's say that I want, my neighbor wants to put solar panels on their roof. It's mandated by the government. Well, that means that my money is going to get taken to put solar panels on somebody else's roof. I may not use as much power as them. The money may not work out to where it's worth it for me to do that. Now, if you get solar on your home, you can sell power back to the grid, but it's at a fraction of the cost. The reason why is because the grid, just like the grid can have excess demand, the grid can also get overloaded with power. If you want to power San Diego all on solar and you want to do it by putting solar on everybody's roof, you're going to have to deal with that problem. And then, of course, you're going to have to deal with the problem when the sun doesn't shine, right? When there's cloud cover, which is all of nighttime, but is also when it's cloudy. So what that means is you're going to have a backup source of power, because you don't want your hospitals, all the places where you're treating, the millions and millions of COVID patients, which don't exist in San Diego. But, okay, we have a lot of COVID patients in San Diego, but it was never anywhere close to overwhelming our hospital system the whole time. Obviously, you want that power on. Your wife's having a baby. She wants that power on in the hospital, believe me. So, again, this is going to conclude the video. I just want to reiterate again that I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with wind and solar, but I do think that there's an issue when it comes to mandating public policy that all energy shall be these quote-unquote renewable sources of energy. And, if you're still in that camp, I urge you to just consider this. Consider the amount of land usage required and the amount of just raw materials, precious metals, things like that, in order to implement something like solar to power the entirety of just one American city. That's not even the most power demanding city in America. So just some food for thought for you guys to consider. Obviously, leave a comment below if you guys liked the video. If you guys see an error with my calculations, would love to hear about that. As an engineer, we're always checking each other's work. So if you guys want to check this out and show me something that I didn't know before, please do. Just keep this in mind when you are thinking about what the best public policy in terms of energy is for America. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Later.